Hi guys, welcome back to another watercolor tutorial. I have taped my piece of paper. It's already in portrait position, but I taped more on these sides, which makes it a little bit narrower. And we're gonna be painting a forest. So, I'm kind of running out of things to paint. So I just start manipulating the canvas, or at least the size of the canvas. All right, this is, we'll see how this turns out. I'm gonna start with yellow, and I'm gonna have like this green path over here, and then this is sort of going to be our horizon line, perhaps, and I want there to be like a nice glow. So this will be yellow, and then it'll fade into kind of an orange. You know when a mosquito bites you in the most annoying place ever? Like, it's always either like on your palm or on the tip of a finger, where it's not satisfying to scratch it. Yeah, that's what happened to me. And then, okay, so before this dries, I just want to make sure that I blend this out, because I don't want it to be this like white cubby. And what I'm gonna do, one of my tricks that I use in a lot of videos, is I take toilet paper and dab the paper where I want to lift off color, and then it doesn't bleed into the area that I lifted it off. But we have to work quickly because I don't want this area on the sides here to dry. What color am I going to turn this? I gotta think quickly. I'll take blue. I'll have some blue peeking through, but it's mostly going to be green. So I'm going to take green. And that is not the green I want. I want a happier green. That is also not a happy green. That's a happier green. Here we go. And so I'm just filling in the rest of this area with green. I know those blue blotches look a little bit random, so I'm just gonna go over them again so that they're not sticking out too much. Okay. Right now, this looks not very good, but this seems to be a trend, if I'm gonna be honest, where things look very sad initially, and then they improve as we get further into the painting. So with the green here, I want there to be like a brown, I don't even want to call it a path. I don't really have a method here to this green part. I generally, when I'm painting a forest floor, I just blot the green down somewhere, and then I kind of add a little bit of brown and mix it all in, and it ends up working out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna take brown and mix that in here. And that's the thing that I think people might have trouble with when painting. I'm sure with many mediums, but watercolor in particular, when you're laying down those first few layers, you really have to have the vision of what this is going to look like, you know, 17 steps down the road. You can't get hung up on what it looks like at this moment, because right now, like looking at this painting, it looks like a child just splotted on a bunch of colors. I know, I recognize that I made up a word there. But yeah, like I'm very aware that this looks very juvenile. And that's okay, because through my painting, I have come to realize that this is just a natural part of the process, and that on step 17 or whatever step down the line, it's all going to come together. It's all going to kind of awaken, if you will. So right now it looks, you know, iffy, but we'll get there. We will get there. So I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll continue on with the next step. All right, my friends, this is dry. Well, probably not, because that's just how I roll. But hoping that it is, I'm gonna take brown watercolor and we're gonna start painting on our trees. So we want some thinner trees. And like, the reason we painted this, I don't even know if I mentioned this earlier, but this whole light part is supposed to be like this tunnel through the trees into the light. And so the intention here is to paint, you know, make it look like there is a tunnel, or, you know, not a pathway, but it leads to somewhere. And we can do that by painting itty bitty trees. So like, they don't have to necessarily go anywhere, and they don't even have to have branches, as long as we have a few twigs for trees, I guess you can say. Something like that. And then as we paint more, we're gonna use we're gonna use darker brown, or this one I just watered down quite a bit. So now I'm kind of taking the full color of the brown and painting on a thicker trunk for a tree. And I'll have another one a little bit lower. I'll have another one beside it. So this is probably going to be released in February, which I know it doesn't really match the winter mood. Here where I live, February is usually like the most brutal winter month. It's like you're so many months into winter already, and it's typically one of the coldest and typically the one with the most snow. And where was I going with that? I don't remember where I was going, but what I will say is that sometimes it's nice to change things up and not just paint a bunch of winter stuff, break it up with a little bit of happiness and warmth. But yeah, after this, because this is the 6th out of the 8 tutorials that I need to paint for February, I am basically going to take like an 8-month hiatus from painting. And you guys won't notice because I have pre-painted that much in advance. Like February will be the last month that I'm painting, like pre-painting ahead of time, and then March will probably be way more in real time. However, when I start painting again in March, or for March, I'm gonna have to pre-paint again, because then we are likely going away for my brother-in-law's wedding. And yeah, we'll be away for probably a while. I was talking about, you know, potential future children with my husband. And I was just thinking about how it's actually more terrifying. Not terrifying, that's kind of an extreme word, but it's scarier going into a potential second pregnancy than the first, because you know what to expect, kind of. The first time around, I was really, you know, what's the word? Naive. And I was like, I got this. This is like a physical challenge that I can overcome. And obviously I overcame it. And just like every other woman that has given birth has overcome it. You have to, like, you can't stop. I wonder how many women would opt out if they could. Like if they were in labor and they realized that, oh my gosh, this is way more intense than I thought. And then you can kind of like press the nope, don't want to do this anymore button. How many would kind of, like if it was like just a magic thing that, oh, okay, you were never pregnant in the first place. I wonder, because, you know, it's intense. It is intense. So, I mean, I'll say it again in this tutorial, in case you don't, I have a viewer that doesn't regularly watch my tutorials, but for perspective purposes, if you want trees to appear closer, you paint them like starting from a lower point than these ones. So these are lower than these, so they're bigger, they're longer, they're darker. That's how you make them appear closer to the viewer. So just keep that in mind as you're painting yours. I kind of forgot to paint little branches coming from these trees. I don't even know if these are deciduous or just super tall pine trees. Like, so what I'm gonna do now is kind of finish off the bottoms of these trees before we add greenery, or I just might do it all at the same time. But yeah, I don't want these trees to just idly stop. So I'm gonna add a little bit of grass at the base of them. So that's a little better, because now you don't have floating trees, but instead you have floating grass. Okay, the other thing I want to do is add a bit of greenery, like whether it's leaves or pine needles, whatever you want it to be. And that's why we painted part of the sky green, right? To give us that background to work with. And that's what I was talking about earlier, about having the vision or the foresight to see what it's gonna look like 17 steps ahead. Because if we didn't have that background, painting leaves on these trees would have been a struggle, in my opinion, because you'd have to fill in all this white space. Whereas now, look, I blotted on a little bit of green, I kind of stippled it on, and it already looks fuller than if we were working with a white background. So that is definitely something to keep in mind when you're painting backgrounds. I'm just stippling. Just make sure if you're gonna stipple as well, that you don't have a bunch of water on your paintbrush. Like, it's almost like dry brushing. So I really like how this is turning out, but the ground is looking very bare to me. So I'm just redoing some of it. So I'm just adding now shadows on the outside portions of these trees of the light. So the light is clearly shining from here out. So these ones are going to have the shadow on the left side, and these are going to have the shadow on the right side. And I'm going to really, what's the word, accentuate that shadow by adding white acrylic paint to our trees. And I might regret this, but I just want to lighten this side of the tree that is facing the light, obviously. And you might have to go back and re-darken, like add your shadow back to the other side of the tree, as I am doing. Because I like that. It makes it look more realistic. Makes the trees look a little less flat, in my opinion. And another thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this neon green that I have, and daringly flick it onto the forest floor. I'm gonna do the same thing with maybe white, acrylic paint, because that will be, and this makes it look fairy-like. That was a last minute decision that I think was a good one. I'm just gonna manually add a few more. And the other thing I want to do is take that neon green that I flicked earlier and just paint some like grassy strands. So I think I'm gonna leave it there. There's definitely something that could be added here, but I'm gonna try my best not to fret over it. There's like, no, I am gonna fret over it. I can't help it, guys. I do this like every darn time, but I just cannot stop myself. Like, I don't wanna finish until I'm satisfied. So I've just taken a darker green and I'm putting it on top of the kind of blotched out leafy areas, and that looks a little bit better to me. That's all I needed. I'm gonna peel this tape off before I change my mind, but I really like how this ended up turning out. let me know if you think the same. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.